it's done. Okay, awesome. All right, welcome everyone. This is Englandia. I help with business development for Sovryn, a Bitcoin DeFi application. For those who are here for the first time, I like to kick off these calls with some hot bars, which I'll be playing for you right now. So if you can all just put yourselves on mute for the duration of this rap verse, that would be really appreciated. Hopefully you guys can hear the background music so that's so that the experience is optimized. Okay, cool. So I'm going to kick it off right now and everyone enjoy. It's trading and it's about time. Got 100 million market cap. We all on cloud nine. How fine. Volume hitting maximums like fast BTC ain't fast enough, but it's all good. We just got to stay on path, solving problems from liquidity to fiat on ramps. Top that. If you're sovereign, you should tweet and flaunt that. For questions, head to wiki.sovryn.app. Photocracy is growing and the numbers are showing. UI improvements looking fly like a Boeing. 9 million came in from Palm Syndicate. Coinbase did an IPO. Now we're about to flip the script. Fire it up and press start, because Sovryn's got the best art. From comic NFTs to graffiti somewhere in Denmark. They don't know the vibe we're on in the month of Ramadan. Sun up, sun down, a decentralized phenomenon. Ooh.
Dude, this was really good.
Good job. Good job.
Nice.
Next level.
That was some fire stuff. Thank you, guys. That was really fun to do. So thank you all for joining us here. I really appreciate the claps and the praise. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Keeps me going. Thank you for sharing in this mission. The rules are, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. If you would like to speak, please toggle the mute button back and forth to get our attention. If that doesn't work, just politely jump into the conversation. So before we go through the agenda, kicking off with Iago, would anyone here like to introduce themselves, say your name and say hi? Okay, looks like we're mostly regulars here.
Hi, I'm Gabriel from Mexico. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Gabriel. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. So let's kick this off with the governance report with Iago.
Thanks very much, Englandia. Well, it's great to connect with you guys again. It's always nice to connect with you every 2 weeks in this way. And actually, I've started trying to spend a little bit more time in this room, in the community voice room, as of other people from sort of core team, just every now and again, so we can, as a community talk. But this call, I think in particular, is very exciting because we can be really, really proud of ourselves as a community of sovereigns. I think we had one of the most spectacular, perfect project launches in the history of crypto. And I can't think of another project that has done what we've done. We built a system on a Virgin chain, built out all of the infrastructure that was required in order to make it usable, built out a system which is able to operate as an exchange, provide liquidity, built out the bridges to allow liquidity to flow onto it. And then we launched our SOV token on our own platform. No one does that. Everyone goes to, like some other exchange. Everyone needs to rely on some other infrastructure. We rely on our own infrastructure. The project itself is sovereign. And we launched with a huge amount of excitement. The token, I think, outperformed, like token price, SOV prices outperformed anyone's expectations. And there were no whales to dump on anyone because there's no whales who got in early. And I gotta say, for us on the team, it's been emotional because for a long time we've been told that everything that we're doing is wrong. You know, you're building on rootstock doesn't make any sense. Everyone's on Ethereum. You should be on Ethereum. You shouldn't be doing token sales. You should be doing airdrops. That's what works. You shouldn't be doing a distribution the way you're doing. You should do a fair launch. That's what is really fashionable right now. You shouldn't be launching on your own system. You should be launching in Uniswap or some kind of exchange. And maybe the biggest one was you shouldn't be decentralizing so soon. The project needs to start out centralized, and then slowly, gradually, it needs to be handed over to the community when you feel like they're responsible enough and you've done all of the work. Haven't you read A16Z's paper on how to gradually decentralize? And we didn't believe that any of those things were right, but we didn't know. We assumed that everyone else is probably right in terms of what will work because it's what's always worked before. And so we worked really, really hard to try and prove them wrong. But I think at the back of our minds was always the feeling like maybe we were working in a vacuum. No one would pay attention to this project. Maybe every single decision we were making was wrong. And with you guys, it's been amazing because, we discovered that we weren't alone in the world, that a lot of people share our values, and that we can find enough support to really build the mission and the project that supports our mission. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for all of the support that you've given us over all of these weeks and months. Thank you for putting up with all of the ugly, broken UI that we sometimes put out. Thank you for putting up with all of the bugs. Thank you. It's meant everything. And you guys, can give yourselves a round of applause. It's been great. I'll just, I think we've done a really great job. And I really also want to thank all of the core team who have been working with me and who dragged me into this project. And it's phenomenal. It's the most phenomenal community. I've only twice, I think, in my life seen a community grow this enthusiastic this fast. Early days of Bitcoin, early days of Ethereum. And if our trajectory looks like those other projects, it's going to be amazing. That said, we are just at the beginning. Every single other project pulls out all of the stops, like right at the beginning. Go into an exchange, go into CoinGecko, go into CoinMarketCap, turn on the marketing. Everyone does that at the beginning. We haven't done it yet. So now we have all of those levers that we can still pull. And that, I think, is going to be exciting. And the other thing is we haven't even turned on all of the features yet. We have a whole bunch of work that we have, we're testing, we're making sure it's safe, we're making sure it's secure, and we're about to put it out. And that's really exciting. So I'd like to talk about a couple of those things because they're going to be important to you guys. And because we're all going to need to participate in voting on them as we release these different features. But before I get into that, I just want to say two things. First of all, about 2 weeks ago, we decided that we were going to slow the team down for a bit to make sure that there isn't burnout. We're still in the middle of that phase, and I think we're probably going to keep working a little bit sort of like less intensely than we have for the last few months for the next sprint or so. That said, I think you guys can see that we're still pushing out stuff at a pretty gobsmacking rate. And then the other thing is there's been some bugs, and I want to use one as a particular example. I wrote about it earlier today, right? So we have a bug with how we're displaying the values in for the loot drop in the USDT BTC AMM, and it's a silly little bug. It wouldn't have happened if the platform hadn't grown as big as it did. We basically built sort of coded things in with the assumption that the numbers would be smaller. But I don't want to focus on something specific. But what I wanted to say is, we're making certain design and development choices, and one of them is we try to make sure that the system is secure, right? And so you kind of the project is very big, the code base is very big, the project is very ambitious, and so you have to decide what you're going to polish, right? Are you going to polish the UI? Are you going to optimize for pushing things out fast? Are you going to optimize for more and more features? Are you going to optimize for security? And the decision we've made is we're going to optimize for security first. That's the thing that we always polish the most. And so if we have 100% dev resources, 80% of them are going to the security, and then 15% are going to extra speed. And then as a result, sometimes certain aspects of the UI are not getting enough love. We are fixing that by adding more resources. And I think there's a lot of front-end UI changes that are coming soon. But I just wanted to explain why we sometimes see bugs, because I think the bugs you're seeing are very visual, and that could reduce confidence in the project, which is ironic, because the reason you're seeing visual bugs is because the bugs that would be hidden from you are the actual dangerous bugs, and those are the ones that we spend all of our time looking for. So I just want to give a quick outline of sort of where we think things, what's coming up in the near future. So there are a number of things that we're working on. One is bridging to other chains, particularly Ethereum and BSC. So Binance Smart Chain, to allow for more liquidity. We've got some partnerships we're working on which will provide more functionality and sort of grow the ecosystem, like with Babelfish and Money on Chain. There's some wallet integrations that we're working with, and then there's quite a lot of things happening on the adoption side, and a lot of this will start sort of coming out over the next really, I think we'll start seeing it towards the end of this coming sprint, to start seeing all of these things coming forward. But one thing in particular, and we have to make a resource allocation decision here, and it would be interesting to hear your guys' opinion. One of the things that we are thinking of prioritizing in terms of what we might be able to push up by the end of this coming sprint, so about 2 weeks from now, is margin trading, which would, can someone...
Can you please mute yourself if you're not speaking?
All right, thank you. So margin trading would basically be the ability to take positions long and short on SOVBTC up to 5x. And this would be a very cool feature, but to introduce it, we need to introduce a new type of oracle for our system, where basically our system becomes its own oracle, using the V1 pools as oracles, because SOVBTC doesn't trade anywhere else. And this would require an upgrade of the V1 system, which would require a SIP, because we can't upgrade the contracts without you guys approving it. The reason we're considering sort of prioritizing that, and there's pros and cons. So maybe the bridges get delayed. So, for example, one thing that would be interesting to hear your opinions on is if you get to choose between bridges and margin trading, what you're most interested in. So I'm going to pause here, and if anyone wants to ask any questions about anything that I said, or say have any comments, now's a great time, and then we can move on to Aurora.
Hey, Yago, it's Whipper.
Of course it is.
Congratulations to the team. Fantastic job. Just a question with regards to SOV margin trading. Are there any potential risks of someone taking an oversized leverage position and then either dumping or going long in either way in a way to try to manipulate the price of SOV? That's my first question. And the second would be, is the main driving factor for that approach to try to drive more RBTC borrowing? Yeah. Two questions.
Yeah, so definitely, I think there's a potential for it to introduce more volatility, right? Because you could be taking more extreme positions with less collateral, and there is the potential for people to also short, right? So they could try drive down the price, drive up the price. At the end of the day, that's sort of like the market, and we might see more volatility if people try to drive down the price. I suppose in a way it's an opportunity for all of us to buy it cheap. But it is a risk, and so I don't know that I have a definitive answer on whether or not this is like the thing that we want to do, which is kind of why I'm asking.
Right. Doesn't that sort of also potentially hinder the plan or the idea to use SOV as a pegging in the future for like SOV BTC peg? If there is
that's a really good question. I actually think that volatility early on would help us at it as a peg, because one, it would effectively deepen the market, right? So like if you can trade 5x what you would usually be able to trade, you're adding a lot more liquidity. And so a deeper, more active market will find a price more quickly and will stabilize. It's kind of a way of hardening the price early on by accepting pain, sort of potentially accepting pain early, right? Because you get much deeper market. So again, I don't have a definitive answer here, but my intuition is that it might cause things to go a bit bizarre at the beginning, but then settle down much quicker in a way which could be positive. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So this is Aware. Yago, I had one question about the what you told about linking to the ETH network and BSC.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to grasp why would we want to do that, and what is your expectation of that? So what does that practically mean by connecting that to those networks? It's maybe a very noob question from my side, but I'm just wondering what your vision on that is. Or
so my DGen answer is because I want to short ETH. So basically, what it would allow us to do is any token that is tradable in any of those chains could be ported over to, not immediately. It would like take a little bit of additional work on a per token basis initially, but basically you would be able to bring in any token and have it trade on Sovryn. It would allow you to trade long and short at margin with all of those tokens. It would basically allow us to compete with Uniswap at much, much lower prices, plus the advantage of having margin trading on top of it, plus the advantage of having the graphical display that we've got for pricing. Already I've started hearing about some people who are day trading on our platform and say, they used to trade on Uniswap and they like this more. It would also allow stablecoin flow onto the system, which would allow more users onto the system more easily with their sort of liquidity. And it would allow us to ARB prices between our system and other systems better, so that we wouldn't get price imbalances quite as frequently.
Okay, it sounds pretty huge, this connection building that to those two networks.
I think it's a very big deal. I think it's like a game-changing deal. Yeah.
Right.
This is literally when maxis on both sides of the fence freak the fuck out that it exists. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal, I think.
Would our token bridge be much faster than the current RSK token bridge?
Yeah, we expect it to be much, much faster. Winnie, are you on the call?
He is not.
All right. Aurora or James, do you guys want to talk about how long you think we anticipate transactions will take?
Yes, I do not have the exact numbers in mind, but in general, it's depending on the amount that you're transferring, with confirmation blocks ranging from 1 block to a couple of blocks. There is a table for the configuration, and like I told you, I'm not sure now at which setting they're going to start, but it will definitely not be like a 24-hour period for each trade like it is with the RSK bridge, but instead it will be fairly fast.
Yeah,
If you're not transferring multiple millions at the same time, then you might need to wait a bit.
we anticipate minutes instead of hours.
Iago, did you want to speak a little bit more about rollups as well? Because you mentioned that yesterday on CoinDesk.
Yes, I think, as you guys know, there's actually a lot of stuff that we're working on. I mentioned 2 big features, right? Like adding the articles, which would allow us to have the margin trading itself, the bridges, and the improved peg, which would also allow fast BTC to become bidirectional. So all of those things are like deep in development already. And then there's another thing, which those of you who have been on these calls before also know about, which is the rollup, which is our goal with Sovryn is to compete not with other DeFi dApps, but with the centralized exchanges and ultimately the entire global financial system. And so we want our system to be as performant, in other words, to be as smooth, as easy to use, and as fast as a centralized system. And so the idea with a rollup is that we would take almost all of the computational complexity off of the chain. It would occur off chain, and then we would use cryptographic proofs to confirm that the computations that are occurring. So basically what is happening when you're interacting with a smart contract is a smart contract is just a little piece of software code, but all of the miners run it to make sure that they all agree on the outcome, right? So we would basically take that off, get the agreement off chain, and then just provide a cryptographic proof on the chain of the agreement. What this means for the user is that fees will drop from their already low level by about 50x. So we could potentially make trading on the system free and just let the system pay the user's fees through the transaction fees, like the trade fees. And it would mean near instant confirmation. It would also, with some potential sacrifices around decentralization, at least in the short term, also prevent any type of front running. So it would basically give you a decentralized system with the feel of a centralized system. And we don't think we're that far away from that either. But I don't think we feel comfortable yet putting a timeline around that.
Any other questions before we move on to the development report with Aurora?
I just hi, this is Nicholas here. Just have a question on the rollups. Interesting topic. But first of all, I echo some of the comments. I think Iago, what you said, that launching Sovryn on Sovryn and beating all expectations amazing. So I don't think anybody was expecting such a huge success. So congratulations to the team. Well, I'm sure you guys were expecting, but everybody was like, wow, launching in Sovryn was like extraordinary. So thanks for that. My question on the rollups is what are your thoughts in terms of I'm not an expert on rollups, but I understand that the moment you move into a rollup, things, if you want to be interoperable with other platforms, other lending pools, now that is I don't know, these guys Tropicus, and I'm sure more protocols will come. So how do they interact once you're in a rollup? Is there a trade-off there? Is it a big decision? Because the fees are clear, so this is awesome. But is there any trade-off, or what kind of decisions are relevant when moving into a rollup?
Yeah, I do think there is a trade-off. I think you lose sort of what Ethereum would, the Ethereum ecosystem has been built around this idea of composability, right? Where all of the none of the dApps themselves are sort of like a full system. They all are a part system, and they rely on the other pieces. The thing is, it doesn't work. Layer 1 can't scale like that. And so that's why sort of the Ethereum ecosystem right now is fragmenting into all of these different side chains and layer 2s and ZK rollups, and the composability is breaking. So what we made as a design decision for Sovryn is we said we're going to build Sovryn as kind of like the Apple or the Macintosh of DeFi, right? It's a system which is integrated. It has all of the basic components, and it just works. And then on top of that, people can build additional applications, right? So Tropicus, for example, would still be able to interact with Sovryn, but it would be more inconvenient than it would be now. But because we're basically building the entire DeFi for Bitcoin ecosystem from the ground up, we have the opportunity to build it right, to build a single protocol instead of like a million different protocols that is easy to use, deeply integrated, and that anyone can permissionlessly build into. And so like one of the things that we're going to be doing, and I think you guys will see the first example of this soon, is with Babelfish. So they're looking to build in the Sovryn ecosystem, and they're going to be sort of applications that is building on the Sovryn protocol. But we're going to integrate them into our own UI. So you'll just be able to, come to one sort of interface, and that can be, then they will have their own interface, and they'll have their own, and you can go to the website and use the thing, but you'll also be able to do it through the Sovryn.app interface. So you can basically start to think of Sovryn.app as the gateway to all of Bitcoin DeFi. And anyone else who sort of builds a front end, and we'd love it if other people build front ends to Sovryn, could also basically do the same thing and have like a single integrated window into the entire protocol, in the same way that Bitcoin Wallet provides you, the only gateway you need into the entire Bitcoin ecosystem. So I think that's how we're thinking about it.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next section, and let's save the questions about the roll up to the end. Aurora, would you like to give the development report?
Sure. So forgive me if things are mentioned twice today on this call. I'll just run through our progress. So yeah, the big event, was the launching of the SOV. And like Jago mentioned, one of the things we are working on is a Oracle integration for our V1 pools, which is not only usable for the SOV token, but would be very useful for any other token which we might add to the system, which does not have an external price feed, like new projects launching on our system, for example. So this Oracle implementation is currently in the concept phase, and we're now need to make some decisions regarding prioritization, which will decide when we're going to have SUV usable as collateral on the system and when we are going to have margin trading and lending available. During the launch, we had some issues with the nodes, which led to us seriously improving our infrastructure, and we now have 9 RSK nodes running in a balancer. So we're quite confident that we shouldn't be running into issues of that sort anytime soon. Again, the ETH bridge is progressing well. It's been like mostly ready for a long time, but we were working on the hardened security of the federators, which are the nodes which are operating the bridge, and are now in the final testing stage of the multi-federator setup on testnet. And here it would be great if you guys could help us again with testing and just make as many transactions as you can so we can observe that everything is working well on the backend side. And I think that Julio might here tell you more about it and give you more detailed instructions in the next week. Also, our SBTC bridge is progressing. We completed the local end-to-end test, but on the testnet end-to-end test, we're still having some issues with the relaying, which should also be solved soon. So we expect to have a publicly testable version sometime next week. We finished the test migration from Brownie to Hardhead, so we have now on our margin trading and lending protocol a uniform test framework, which will make it much easier to maintain and enhance the test suite from here. Working more towards 100% coverage and improving the security of our system even further. We also introduced some improvements to the Sovryn nodes, above all optimization of the arbitraging bot. So now it's not just exchanging a static amount, but instead computing what amount is needed to restore the balance of the AMM completely. Here again, a reminder that everyone can help with balancing the AMM, and by helping to balance the AMM, you even make a profit because you are getting the undersupplied asset for a cheaper price. So at the moment, we have a well, we do not have enough USDT, and so this means that you can buy Bitcoin for cheaper price. So it's a good opportunity to buy some more Bitcoin. So that's it mostly from the backend side, and we also had a lot of update on the front end. The complete page flow for the buying SOV page, the new graphics, the pricing graphs. We reworked the wallet engagement, gave final touches to the new swap and the new trading UI. We're working on the swap history, which I think many of you are waiting for. And we're fixing some of the bugs you guys reported, like which appeared when trying to withdraw from the AMM. And we're also preparing the front end for the visualization of the liquidity mining rewards. I think that's it on the high-level overview of our development progress and state at this point. Anyone, any questions?
Hey, Aurora, it's Whipper. You mentioned an ARB bot. Is that just for information purposes so that the community can ARB the AMM, or is that an actual ARB bot that the Sovryn platform will be using and utilizing for its own profit, which I'm assuming would probably be distributed back to the team or community? No, sorry, not the team, the community, of course, or SOV token holders.
No, this ARB bot is part of the Sovryn node, and anyone can run a Sovryn node, and it's even encouraged to run a Sovryn node, which, if I remind you, the Sovryn node is taking care of liquidations, of rollovers, and of arbitraging. So the arbitraging bot has always been present and part of the Sovryn node, and we are operating one Sovryn node. But we would like to encourage the community to run more of them, to have a more robust setup, because the security of the platform, and especially the liquidations, are important for the security of the platform, should not depend on a single party running a node, but should be a distributed setup. I forgot now where I was stuck. So yeah, the arbitraging bot is now changed in a way that it's not anymore just trading a static amount like it was in the past, which you could just configure in the settings, but now it is dynamically computing how much is missing in a pool, and you can restore the value of the pool by supplying this amount of tokens. So this is why I said it's improved.
I also wanted to add that there is a video that it was EOM that put out just recording himself creating deploying a Sovryn node using
Can I answer to that for you, Englandia?
Yep, take it away.
So as a result of him putting out that video, we had a long conversation last week with the Akash team, and the Akash team wants to come on as one of the members of the hackathon and wants to provide computing resources for hackers during the hackathon. And during that conversation, we explored together with Jamie and EOM Games how it is that we could duplicate these services and the nodes on the Akash network. So we're going to be exploring that, which would also include doing hosting on IPFS with ENS resolution and also looking into HNS. So we'll be building a relationship with Akash to do that and explore how much of it we can do on decentralized cloud computing infrastructure as well. So it's awesome. A question of which parts of the nodes and which parts of the system can run there, and we'll be exploring that, what makes sense to be doing on their infrastructure.
Thanks a lot, Excel Server. So I would like to move on just for the sake of time to creative design. With Zoo, I don't believe he's available at the moment to speak because he's in the middle of travel. So I'll just share his notes. There's a new website in development with the Babelfish integration UI, as mentioned earlier. There's a new design of a connection to the wallet interface to now include hardware wallets, and work has been started on a new market making interface. So those were the updates from Zoo.
So I just to clarify that, Englandia, what that means is that you guys can now use your hardware wallets, so ledgers and trezors. You can plug them directly into the computer and use them directly with the dApp. You no longer need to use a browser wallet like MetaMask or Nifty to use the hardware wallets. You can do it directly.
Awesome.
So this is huge, and if I could add a little bit more around Sue's notes. So what we'll be able to do now as well is that the swap page so selling SOV will be updated in this, and we'll be taking over sort of the structure and the identity that you guys have all seen on the landing page with the easy user journey. So it's a big step forward with the rest of the pieces that Sue is going to be rolling out over the next weeks.
Any questions before we move on? Okay, cool. Can we get the adoption report by Slider?
Sure can. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to report on the SOV launch campaign. It's still ongoing, but I'll give you the activity so far. So last weekend, we sent out an e-shot to our entire email list to announce the launch of SOV trading. That list included the Genesis and Origin sale participants. In total, 31,500 emails were delivered. Out of those, a staggering 12,000 people opened the email, which gives us an excellent open rate of 38%. Then of those people, 2,500 clicked through the links provided to get started with Sovryn. And this is a click-through rate of 7.7%. This means we have a very engaged audience. So we're very happy with that. And we are looking to use the email list more going forward. In addition, we sent out a press release to announce the POMP investment round, naming some of the other investors. You may have seen that includes BitMEX, Blockware Solutions, and a bunch of others. That press release did very well. It gained the attention of mainstream investment press, probably over the crypto press this time around. We estimate in the region of 500,000 views of that story across 44 publications. Our top publications were City AM, which covers the business news in London, also Yahoo Finance and Bankless Times. We had Spanish coverage in Cointelegraph and Investing.com, and French coverage in FR24. If you want to take a look at the campaign summary, I've posted that in the media links channel, so have a look there. In addition to press coverage, Iago appeared on CoinDesk TV yesterday. If you missed it live and you want to watch it back, I've also put the link in the media links channel. There are additional podcast appearances coming up. We're booking in Tech Talks Daily and Andrew Keen's Keen on Capitalism podcast. One of the things we're working on is a community-facing calendar so that we can just update you as we book these events, and you can just check the calendar whenever you have time. As part of the launch, we engaged with a growing number of Twitter influencers who are supporting the Sovryn mission. We had around 20 high-profile accounts push our messaging on launch day, which was really impactful. We're hoping to continue to work with those influencers in the future. We launched our advertising campaign today to bring in new users to the platform. This is now live on the crypto ad network Coinzilla. So you might start to see Sovryn ads popping up on crypto sites that you visit. We're going to scale the ad campaign out over the coming week. We've got additional creatives and landing pages to roll out. Plus, we aim to be up and running again on Brave soon. And I'll bring the results of that for you next time we convene. In terms of the bigger picture, the adoption team, our mission is to help raise the profile of Sovryn. And we want to bring it into the top league of DeFi platforms in the world. One of the metrics that we're tracking success against is the total value locked, among other things. But if we use a site like DeFi Pulse to gauge our progress, at the moment we are theoretically sitting at position 47. Our goal is to rise up to sit in the top 20 within the next few weeks. And also I say the adoption team is here to help grow Sovryn because there are many activities that will contribute to our success. The biggest driver is, of course, you, the community. As Iago mentioned earlier, Sovryn is nothing without its community. So I want to thank you all for your ongoing support. You are our brand ambassadors as such, and I'm always amazed at what we can achieve together. And the most exciting part is that we're just getting started. So that's all from me. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you have a great weekend.
That was amazing. Thanks a lot, Slider. Very informative updates. Any questions before we move on to Exiled Surfer?
I have a question. This is Aware again.
Sure. Go ahead.
Maybe two. One is there any? Do we have any? Is there any way to see how many SUV holders we have, or how that is growing or decreasing? And the second question is completely different. I heard, I forgot your name, sorry, about the influencer campaign. I typically get a bit, yeah, my English is not so good, but a bit itchy when I hear about influencers. And mainly because, for example, it's just from the top of my head, if you look at the launches, for example, on Polka Starter and places like that, it's just known that the influencers get advantage and then we get very early access and at very low price, and then basically to put it very negatively, dump on their followers. So I'm just wondering how we approach that as the Sovryn community. This basically engaging with the influencers.
Can I respond to that?
Sure can.
So, yeah, everything you're saying is true. And, you know, like the people who were participating, they're not paid influencers, although we have no problem with paying influencers if it, you know, bring more users. It's part of why we have a treasury, is for marketing. But in this particular case, it wasn't people who were paid. It was people who paid for the privilege. And then the question becomes, like, how do we make that decision? Well, the way we made that decision was via a vote. So in SIP 12, I think it was SIP 12, we as a community came together and decided, do we want to put together a opportunity for a syndicate of strategic participants to participate in the round? Among those participants were influencers. I mean, that's what Pomp is. He's an influencer. It's what, you know, actually, you know, CryptoBurb is an influencer. These guys participated in the rounds. They invested, and they're now staked in the protocol, and so they are incentivized to talk about it. But they wouldn't have done that unless they believed in the project. And so, not only are they participants, they're also staked participants. They're staked for 16 months. Some of them. Others are staked for 10 months, like, you know, like the Genesis participants, for example. But yeah, I mean, what we try to do is play the game to win, right? We want to win, and that means using all of the tricks that everyone else uses. But we want to do it in a way which is principled. So we're, you know, people can't dump on you, and indeed, we didn't have whales dumping, and everyone, you know, is locked up for long periods of time, and do it in a way where the community decides that they are, you know, cool with it, and doing it in a way which is transparent. So I think we're not opposed to being Machiavellian. We're trying to do something which is really hard, which is be Machiavellian and principled. And so far, I think we've been doing a pretty good job of walking that line.
Also, to answer the first question, if you regarding how many tokens. Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Englandia.
All right. So he was asking also how many SOV token holders there are. So if you look in the RSK Explorer and search for the SOV token, the one with the contract address ending in BBD, there's about 8,000 holders of the SOV token. So you can always check there. That's all
I'm dropping the link in the general channel, so you can just click on it and see it's 8,000 something.
Oh, great. Thanks. And also thanks for the answer on the influencers. I think it's it's not that I'm against it, but so I think it is very useful to engage with these people. But it's just to make sure that there's no imbalanced advantage of these people over the rest of the community, and that's. Yeah, that's my only.
Well,
input.
the only advantage that they had was an approved offering price from the community, was to buy tokens at the 12K SOV. They were not given any. They were not giving any tokens before. They're not getting any tokens after. There's none of that side of the token of influencer payoffs happening, other than what it was approved by the community in the SIP.
Right. Okay, great. Then thanks for the transparency there. Yeah.
Let's move on to the community court with report with Exiled Surfer.
All right, so I actually got a lot of stuff to run through. So the Sovryn hackathon that I've been talking about over the last community calls is finally getting a start date, which is approximately May 16th. That'll be happening on Gitcoin. There'll be a site up soon where people can sign up to participate as speakers, judges, hackers, partners, etc. And as mentioned earlier, Akash is one of the first partners that's coming onto the hackathon. We'll be announcing others along with the tracks. It's going to be 500,000 SOV in 500,000 USD value of SOV for the hackathon, which will be split between about 250,000 in prizes for the winners of the tracks, and then another 250,000 in grants, which would then be happening on the Gitcoin platform with the quadratic matching, so that we can incentivize and support the best projects that come out of the hackathon. This is also will then be happening very, very shortly after hopefully shortly after the integration of the Ethereum bridge. And so the main purpose of the hackathon is to draw the Solidity developers and app developers and interface designers that have been built by the Gitcoin community, which includes about 97,000 developers at the last number that I heard from them, to incentivize them to be building applications for Sovryn. And if we have the Ethereum bridge and the Binance bridge happening at that point, I would imagine that we would see some pretty interesting and promising projects coming out of the hackathon. Next thing is the Sovryn Bomb campaign that you guys saw yesterday. What was just like a brain fart out of me, just sort of like happened at the end of CoinDesk. It seemed like the moment that we had a lot of eyeballs to launch that. We'd been sitting on the graffiti wall for about 2 weeks now. That was made from one of our community members, and that really took off. It was an interesting experiment for us to look at how viral that went or not. There seems to be a demand for a global similar type of program, and we've spoken with the crew who wants to do additional walls in Europe. We'd be looking to embed them with puzzles and QR codes and do something a little bit more extensive along the lines of what the French artists have been doing, and also crypto graffiti in the States. So to make that a lot more sort of like a journey with Easter eggs that then had incentive inside of it. So that was a kickoff of that idea. The next thing that's interesting is we're having a lot of staff changes inside of the community team. EOM Games, who you guys have seen as a helper, is moving up in the world and is pretty amazing. He's exactly the node containerization optimization engineer that we've been looking for. So he's coming into the DevOps role part-time, and won't be seen so much in the channels handling people. But what's really awesome, and this is probably the coolest part about my job, is this amazing pool of talent that's just like right in front of my face every day, is pulling people up out of the community. So looked around and asked our community managers for candidates, and Satoshi Badger, who you guys have seen in the channel, is now going to be taking over the time zone that EOM Games has been handling. Next one that's moving up the chain is the legend. The GIMP is literally a legend, is also going to be doing less work in the community channels and shifting over into full-time on the wiki, and also going to be doing technical documentation and writing along the lines that you've been seeing on the wiki, and is also going to be working as, since he has such perfect Oxford English, is going to be working as a book editor on a book that we're going to be bringing out, written by Anita Posch. You might have seen the podcast that Edon was on a couple of weeks back. Anita Posch is the chairman of Bitcoin Austria, a colleague of mine that I've known for a number of years. And so we're going to be bringing out a basically Road to Sovereign Bitcoin book in 5 languages, Russian, English, German, Spanish, and Chinese. So the GIMP is going to be working on that project. So congratulations to him. I mean, really, what a skyrocketing career he's having. What a piece of talent. We're so happy to see him move up the chain. The next one that we've got joined the team is Hanzitko. We now have an Instagram. So at instagram.com/sovereignbtc, all those hot graphics that our designers have been doing and Sue's been pushing out is going to start being available on Instagram. So that's another way that we'll be expanding our community. And then the next thing is the API bot that you guys might have seen posted in some of our channels. That's also a piece of work that EOM Games has been whipping up. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to give you all the ability to give commands to get all of the endpoint data that we will also be having in the application. So if any of you have been wondering why I've been a little bit testy about the UI glitch in our DApp, is because our data mage, Betsy Braddock, has literally been working sleepless hours on tons of Red Bull and with health issues and stuff to be taking all of the endpoint data that we're grabbing from the blockchain and getting it into a MySQL database so that it can be displayed in our DApp beta interface. And so the the bot for that's being tested right now in Discord is drawing from that same data. So we're going to be building once a Node.js application, which then will be implemented in the DApp and be giving everybody all the pieces of information that they want to see that we haven't delivered so far. And that will also be available in the bot in Discord. And what's interesting about that is that then it becomes basically an API zap. So we can plug it into Google Studio, or we can plug it into anywhere and be drawing all of the data that's going through the system and display it across all kinds of applications. A stellar piece of work from EOM Games. And that leads me on to this sort of like a little bit of the change in tone that you guys have seen me having in the channels, a little bit of what comes across as frustration or a little bit of brutality. But that's actually going to be a shift in tone and how much responsibility it is that we're taking as stewards of the project for the decisions that people make to use the application or to invest in the application. It's going to be a repeat of the Stay Sovereign, which is not only the positive message, but it's also a warning message. I mean, it's a beta project now, not really alpha anymore. The members of the community are beta testers essentially with skin in the game. And so while we have this sort of human empathy and concern for the security of the funds, we've leaned very, very closely to helping people and advising them about what's the best thing to do in the application. And so you're going to see a little bit of a step back from that sort of assistance and an insistence that people take responsibility for interacting with the platform. There's a couple of very, very important things that are going to be coming up in the next week. We're going to be moving our DNS resolution for security reasons from the scripting and the way that it's currently working. And that's going to require a very, very short period of time where the site may be unavailable and not loading correctly. We'll be putting out a message advising of that and giving a time when it's going to be happening. We're going to be very, very much out in the front of this so that people know that we're optimizing the security of our system by making some changes. There's going to be a second optimization outage that's going to happen at a different time, and that's going to be for FastBTC, which brings me to the issue that have been pretty much the thorn in our side from a usability perspective. Just the bad luck that we had with the bad health of the node, and also burned out staff and not enough of us to track the complaints that people were having. So we're going to be doing two things. We're going to be optimizing the FastBTC network, which will probably result in about 1 hour of outage, where the transactions may not be going through as fast as people would like, and for us to be seeing them. That'll be notified far in advance, which leads me on to two optimization issues that came out of the triaging from our experience of launching SOV this last week. The first one is that we don't have a ticketing system. So Franklin, one of our devs, started today configuring Fast Desk, I believe it is, or Free Desk, which is a inexpensive version of Zendesk. And we're going to be having a ticketing system. And when we get that set up, eventually we'll get it built directly into the DApp. And we'll be doing a promotion campaign around that so people know that we now have a ticketing feature, so that we won't have that kind of discussion happening in Discord anymore. And people will also be able to track their issues. And this way we'll be able to triage better the way that things are happening on the platform, and hopefully serve you all better. Another thing that came out of our internal triaging process is the desire for us to have what we're calling an internal error log. And the internal error log is that all of the paid contributors to the project will be incentivized, or basically beaten with a stick, to admit their mistakes. Failures that we make in our process, where it is that I'm on Twitter, do something incorrectly or whatever, or somebody else. What we want to do is, or if Sue misses an implementation detail in the UI.
Sue's here actually, and he can comment on that. But I think we're getting a little bit towards the end of the call. I think we're actually 2 minutes over. So
yeah, I understand, but many people were speaking before me, and I'd like to cover my last point. So we'll be doing the internal error log as an optimization and triaging internally. And the final thing is to notify everybody that the budget and circle process is coming along very well. We've submitted our budgets to the exchequer to begin the approval process for the way that things are moving forward. And we've done a pretty good job in defining the circles and who belongs where. And that's where I'm at the end.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Excel. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't leave up enough time for you to go over all those updates. So that was a lot shared with Excel Surfer. I would like to close out the call in terms of updates. If you guys like, we could stick around for Q&A, but I'll adjourn this meeting now and close off the recording. So thank you all for joining this call. Your support makes all the hard work worthwhile. Who we are as a collective, carving out a trail for financial freedom, dismantling what people know and understand about money. So help us spread the word and create more sovereign individuals. And for those who would like to stick around for questions to Excel Surfer, feel free to stick around. And Excel Surfer would appreciate it if you could hang for a couple more minutes for any questions.
Oh yeah, I have no time pressure. I'm perfectly willing to stay here. Yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah, I'll stop the recording. Any questions?
Hey guys, any plans for a fast BTC out or fast RBTC going outwards, so you can deposit RBTC and get BTC out?
Yes. We mentioned it earlier.